role should the U.S. play in reacting to Iran's development of nuclear weapons, and at what point should the U.S. intervene to protect our interests in the Middle East?
Well, thank you for the question. And number one, we wouldn't have the problem in Iran that we have today if we had a real president. That's the bottom line. You know, there are a number of opportunities that we've had in the previous 3.5 to 4 years to curtail this problem. You know, when you had the uprising in Iran, the president stood silent, said not a word. You know, my experience when I was over in Prague in the Czech Republic when I was in school, which completely transformed my view of the world and got me interested in politics. My roommate was from Romania. Their favorite president was Ronald Reagan. You know, one of the reasons why they loved Ronald Reagan was he stood in front of the Berlin Wall and said, Mr. President, or said, pardon me, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Their hearts leapt for joy. That's what the folks in Iran who were demonstrating not too long ago were hoping to hear from our current president, and they didn't. Now, we need to stand strong with Israel. Israel is our ally. They are our friend. We need to do everything possible through sanctions and otherwise to curtail the development of the nuclear weapon in Iran. But the main thing that will help change the course of our international crisis there will be a new man in the White House who exemplifies leadership and who stands tall and has the moral courage to do what is right.
Thank you, Senator. Before we go any further, I just would like to ask the members of the audience here if you could all turn your cell phones on to silent, if you would, please. Just want to make sure that we don't have any kind of distractions breaking the trains of thought, gentlemen. Mr. Crow, I'm going to ask you to respond first to the next question, if I can, sir. In your view, what is the single most important thing Congress can do to stimulate job creation?
Well, we had some opportunities. We sent the Federal Reserve sent the banks like $16 trillion. You know, if they discounted mortgages to 75% of fair market value, that would do a whole lot to stimulate the economy. You know, repeal Obamacare would be good. Reduce corporate income tax from 35% to 15% would be a good idea. Around here, I think our key to building our economy around here is clean water. I think that needs to be done. I would say that taxes, reducing taxes. Our biggest problem is we've got monopolies that are running the small guy out of business. We have a Federal Reserve that's a franchise that is getting $400 billion a year in tax money. And until we do something about the Federal Reserve and start issuing the money the constitutional way, which is from the Treasury, I don't think our economy is going to do what we want to do. We're up against a wall, and I see that as the Federal Reserve. But we can try to do it, but we've got monopolies that we're up against. Thank you.
Senator Rouser, in your view, what's the single most important thing Congress can do to stimulate job creation?
Get the government out of the way. That's the single most important thing that Congress can do. You know, we need to reform our tax code. There's no reason why the tax code should be 3.8 million words. Absolutely no reason. We need to get rid of the rules and regulations that are hindering business, preventing people from starting up new businesses. Not long ago, I was watching Fox News, and there were 5 CEOs, and one of the questions asked was, if you were starting today, could you start your business? And the answer was no. The rules and regulations were such that it would be impossible for us to even get off the ground. Obamacare. Obamacare is one of the single biggest reasons why this economy is in a real slouch. My doctor, he's a few years older than I am. He shared with me this story. He said, you know, I had a CEO come in here not long ago, and they asked me, what is Obamacare going to do to premiums? He said, they're going to go up. He said, you're going to see the cost of health care go up all across the board. Guy came back, and later found out they chose not to hire 60 new college graduates. Those 60 new college graduates may very well have a job, but they lost an opportunity to start a career. Ladies and gentlemen, the government is the problem.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Pantano, in your view, what is the single most important thing Congress can do to stimulate job creation?
I echo the Senator's comments about getting out of the way, but there are some concrete examples that I think the audience wants to hear, and I'm going to go into some of those, but I'm going to refer you, as I did this audience member earlier, to our website, pantanoforcongress.com, or our Facebook page, where we have numbers of white papers on which regulations we would repeal and how that would create jobs specifically, because it's hard to address that in the 45 seconds that remain. But all of you know that for over 1,000 days, we have not had a budget passed. Certainly the Congress has passed the Paul Ryan budget last year. They passed the Paul Ryan budget again this year, and I'm excited about this budget. It's called the Path to Prosperity. I was proud to stand with Paul Ryan, and I took about $2 million in attack ads for doing that. Why does passing a budget like this matter? Because it has the concrete specifics that we need for job creators to be comfortable. Number one, it repeals Obamacare. Number two, it bends down the entitlement curve, which right now has all of our creditors nervous that we're not serious about tackling our debt. Well, what does that do? It hurts our credit rating. So when we go from AAA to AA, and as that process continues to roll, just as a friend, or you might even have experience borrowing too much on a credit card, that cycle gets vicious and it continues, well then it gets harder and harder to borrow money to start or to grow businesses. So repealing Dodd-Frank, making it easier for banks to lend. That would keep more of our local businesses in business because they could borrow capital and they wouldn't be so afraid of the onerous rates. The Paul Ryan budget speaks to lower tax rates, both at the corporate level. Do you know that right now America has the #1 highest tax rate in the world? We need to bring that down. The Ryan budget does it. That's a concrete plan. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we will start with Senator Rouser. Other than proceeding with the Keystone Pipeline, what else could Congress do to increase and develop domestic production of energy sources?
Well, first of all, we need to get the rules and regulations that are preventing us from tapping into all of our natural resources out of the way. The truth of the matter is, we are so wrapped around the axle by the environmentalists and others on the left that we can't tap into the natural resources that we have. I am firmly convinced that if the rest of the world thought we were serious about tapping into all the natural resources we have, drilling in Anwar, natural gas in North Carolina, you name it, the price of gas would fall dramatically tomorrow. So the answer really is quite simple. Let's get rid of all these rules and regulations that say if you have an endangered species, and by the way, how many of us know how many endangered species are on the endangered species list? How many of us know how many endangered species have come and gone that we don't even know about? I think you get my point. You know, our priorities are in the wrong place. Our priorities ought to be about national security and ought to be about job creation in this country, not worrying whether or not there's a certain species that has 2 families or 3 families and trying to take care of that. Now, I'm all for the animals, but we got to have our priorities straight. And there's no reason why we can't tap into every possible resource we have in this country in a very environmentally sensitive way. We have the technology to do it, and we should do it.
Mr. Pantano, what can Congress do to increase and develop domestic production